Hello, and welcome to Postcards from a Soul and Her Human. I'm the human Gina, and welcome and thank you for joining me. I appreciate it very much. The first thing I want to do is give an update on the last episode that I did, which was called The Body, which focused heavily on a germ phobia that I was dealing with and um, how I had an energetic event that helped me realize that I needed to purge that, or actually I believe the energy purged it, and I had to follow through with my actions and behavior in the world. And it was a pretty interesting experience. And it's been a few weeks or longer even since I recorded. So I just want to give a quick update on that. I have been sick for the last few weeks, which is so funny. I am swimming in the most adorable germ pool that you could ever imagine. So I am happy to have contracted whatever this was. It's so interesting how this illness really helped me continue to manage my behavior regarding germs. And I don't believe anything happens by accident. It's just hard to believe that anymore these days. So I still am a little tiny congested, so forgive that in my voice. And I still have a little bit of a cough, which is persisting. So forgive any of that if it shows up on the audio. But I wanted to talk a little bit about how I'm doing, and it's just been so interesting to observe this. And I've really gotten into this incredible space, and I talked about the third eye a couple of times in the last couple of episodes about how important it is to see ourselves as an observer of our own lives. And this is the perspective that's required to really ascend out of our lower vibrations and to really integrate all of our experiences, and then that integration expands us energetically and emotionally and spiritually, and allows us to live a more aware, engaged life without being so deeply affected by adversity and really anything that would challenge us in our lower vibrancy. So it's just so very interesting to witness myself going through this with as much objectivity as possible. But it's not almost. I do feel like a third person watching myself having this life experience, and it this journey with this germ phobia has really been interesting. So since I spoke to you last, I've gotten into this illness, which I used to have a lot of really weird habits when I got sick, and I, just for full disclosure, have avoided getting sick for almost 4 years because of COVID and how I took on these incredible protocols. And I shouldn't say that. I did have COVID. I wasn't aware that I had it. So I wasn't avoiding COVID. But as far as like an illness that kept me home, or I had symptoms and things like that, I really have avoided that for nearly 4 years. So being back into this adorable germ pool with my grandbaby, and it has really helped me understand again or relearn how important the germs that we live in, immersed within every day, how important they are. They fortify our immune system, and we have to go through this kind of these trials in order for our immune system to stay strong. So trying to avoid germs through a phobia, which is not a choice, but or through choices that I made to try to save myself from reinfecting myself when I was sick. I used to, wash everything, scrub everything, change my toothbrush, all these things that we do that seem to make so much sense to keep ourselves from being reinfected by ourselves. And I live alone, I have for a long time. And it's funny, while I was in this illness and I was getting to the point where I thought I was better and I could start to do my cleaning, quote unquote, I just had an epiphany. I said to myself, "Why is this necessary? Am I really saving myself anything? Or is this another opportunity for me to let go of some of these wild practices?" And they're not wild. I mean, I'm exaggerating. They're just things that seem to make sense that really don't make any sense. And it's funny because I've come to really rely on my communication with my soul team, and I can ask a question out loud, and within an hour or a day or two, I have an answer, and I don't have to think about it again. I don't question it. I don't look for more validation, and it really has helped free me from my own little tiny prisons that I create with all these obsessive practices. And I wouldn't say this was obsessive. This was just a normal thing, I would say, but there is some obsessive things that have been affected by this as well. Is I Googled, I just said, I used the speaker on Google and I said, what's the likelihood I'm going to reinfect myself after an illness? And I always trust that whatever answer I'm guided to, or whichever one pops up and grabs my attention, is the one that I'm meant to look at. And if this one popped up and said, chances are very slim, changing your toothbrush, really not necessary, scrubbing it really could make it worse. All these things that really help me to just let go of any obsessive need to try to control whether I was going to get sick or not. And I've always had an awareness of germs. And I want to say that again, even before COVID and all this, I wasn't a big door handle toucher and, things like that. And so I've always had an awareness, and in this ultra aware energy, the awareness is amplified. So it's up to me to manage that. And this is something that I'm able to do more readily and with more ease as I trust myself in this lifetime. And people are always looking for things external to themselves to trust so they can let go of their fears or their anxieties and things like that. And I lived a lifetime of that, just like most of us do. And what I've come to realize through all this exercise of integrating my life and all of the turmoil and pain and disappointment and all the things that cause us to shield ourselves or mask ourselves or become obsessive with things, is that, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh boy. Anyway, it'll come to me. But what I've learned during this time is that if I overfocus on any one thing, that there's a problem there, that's going to require examination. So it's easier now. It's become very easy to examine myself and to be open to that examination and honestly to be always looking for it so I can solve any problems within my energetic field, any barriers within my energy that will keep me from being open to what is meant for me in this life. And this is really where we get tripped up, is we get caught up in over focusing on things, and then those things become so big in our lives that we can't see that we are limiting ourselves and inhibiting ourselves in every other way. And this is, of course, what addiction is and what obsessive behavior is and what anything that we do to reach externally in this world to soothe ourselves is what it is. It is a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. And it causes us to lose focus of the bigger picture, which is what the perspective is and which is the third eye. And there's so much in here. But what this allowed me to do was really, when I read the Google that said, really, you can't, the germ that infected you in the first place is you're now immune to because of you went through the illness, and that it's very unlikely that same germ is going to reinfect you. So I'm using the toothbrush every day, and I would avoid everything until I cleaned it again. It was a bit obsessive. So in a moment, I was able to let that go. And I realized that if I do get sick again from the same germ that infected me the first time, then I'm meant to still be reinforced more deeply. So accepting that has really allowed me to let go of the fear around it. And it's not really a fear of dying. I mean, I never really feared death. It's not that. It's just a fear of being inhibited, of not being able to do what I want, not being able to go see my girls, not being able to move in the world. And when you're alone, that takes on another layer too, because there's nobody there to care for you. So, you work to stay healthy and you do all these things, but germs are a part of our life. They're an important part of our lives. They are little ecosystems that are constantly working with our bodies to reinforce our immunity. And avoiding them is really futile. And I'm not saying in extreme situations they shouldn't be avoided. If people have immune system issues and, there's a whole bevy of reasons why people need to avoid germs. I get that. I'm talking a healthy person who doesn't have any, frailty in that area. Because I'm not a doctor, I would not make those exclamations. But this illness really helped me let go of that little bit of obsessive behavior. And another thing that was affected by this that I was very surprised is I had a mild obsession with walking around my house and checking things before I left. And I don't want to exaggerate again. The main thing I would check is my stove. I have a gas stove, and I would walk over and just touch the handles and make sure everything was off. And I would walk towards my front door, and then I would walk back and check it again. And I would say to myself, "What are you doing? You just checked it." And then I'd walk again. And because I was talking to myself, I'd forget if I checked it and I'd go back again. So up to 3 times, sometimes 4 times before I left the house. And sometimes before I went to bed, I would check my stove. And I knew it was not necessary. And I knew it was something in my body that was unsettled. And I've come to learn, of course, that's trust. We don't trust ourselves at the very most baser level. So this little obsession that I had was of course, a futile practice, but it's something that soothed this little injury in my body, this little distrust in my body. And throughout this exercise of letting go of the germs, was actually affected too. And I'm happy to say that I still will look at it and I'll think about it, but I would say to myself, no, you didn't use the stove, or no, you checked it yesterday, you're good. And I'm able to walk away and forget about it. Where before I would get to my bedroom and then I would say, okay, just go one more time. And I would talk myself into going downstairs. And I know this is part of living alone too. And I'm not going to discount this completely. I understand it to some degree, but when it becomes obsessive and you go back more than once or twice, that's an illegitimate behavior. That's a unreasonable behavior. And it stems from, I believe, from my own experience, a distrust in my own ability to care for myself. And this germ phobia really brought that to light as well. And it's almost like it swept all of this out of my psyche. And I still think about it. I'm not going to exaggerate this at all. I think this is so important to be absolutely honest about this. I still think about it, but it doesn't grab me and it doesn't insist that I take an action. Like I find myself still avoiding my phone sometimes because I went to the grocery store and I handled it with my debit card and my store card and all those things. And I still think about that. And I'll say to myself, Gina, you're avoiding your phone. Just go grab it. And I'll grab it and then I'll do whatever I'm doing and I'm fine. So it still requires my attention, my intention to not be swept back into it. And I don't know that I could be at this point. I don't want to say that. I may very well be still susceptible to that. I don't know. I'm not an expert on this at all. I can just talk about my own experience, how I am still very aware of it, but it does not grab me anymore. And I was talking to myself, which I do sometimes. And if you live alone, you understand this. And I talk to my soul tribe out loud as well. It's something that they told me in a reading long ago that they enjoyed was when I spoke to them out loud. So I do that still. So when I ask a question, I'll say, hey, team, what's this? And then I'll Google it and I'll get the answer, or I'll get a video in my YouTube channel that will answer the question for me. And then I say out loud, thank you so much. And this is the connection and the support that I enjoy every day. So it's amazing how I'm still have an awareness of it, but it doesn't grab me anymore. I think the fear is just gone. So it doesn't, grab onto that remnant in my body that was always there for it to cling to stay in my body. I believe that was purged when I had that an incredible energetic event. When I got out of my bed that morning that I talked about in the last episode that I described as a rocket of energy that launched off my body and caused nausea afterwards. My body has become very adept at working with the human me, or I should say the human me has become very adept at working with the ethereal me to keep myself clear. And this really segues me into something I did want to talk about. And there's a whole other subject too, so I'll be as brief as I can here, is that we are receivers. Think of a stereo receiver if you're old enough to remember what that is. A stereo receiver is a mechanism that is, I'm not sure exactly how the mechanics work, but it's an electromagnetic mechanism that takes in radio waves from the air and it transduces it into sound for us to hear. So if you have a receiver and the receiver is broken, that connection is severed and you can't get the messages. Excuse me. You can't get the messages that are meant for you. So what I've come to realize with this whole exercise of this awakening and this ascension of my energy and this expansion of my energetic body, which is affecting me at a cellular level, I really came up with I had a revelation a couple of weeks ago, and I wrote it down. I said, I want to talk about this, is that we are basically broken receivers when we're in our lower vibrancies or our shadow selves. And this time period in our lives is so important. We came to Earth, incarnated into this form, to have these experiences, to resolve karma. And karma is described many different ways, but to me, karma is just whatever I chose to, whether by choice or by familia, ancestral experience, to bring into this lifetime to work on. And this is something that I discovered in the Gene Keys. And again, I'll talk about the Gene Keys as much as I can. When you work with the Gene Keys, it talks about your specific karma. You, me, this Gina, your karma based on my birth date, my birth information. And it specifies my specific karma. Victimhood was another one, not feeling secure in myself. Self-love issues, all these things are mapped out for me to look at and then to really see what it is I brought into this world and help me focus on it with intention and heal it. And this is what this first 7 months after my ex-husband left my house and I suffered that energetic break, this is what I was serendipitously introduced to and I worked with for the first 7 months of that healing to get to the point where I understood or began to really integrate all that had happened to me. And I want to say it that way on purpose, because we perceive everything that happens to us in our life as happening to us. And it makes sense. This person did or said this to me. This experience caused this inside of me. Everything that we experience is done to us, right? No, it's absolutely not right. And I might upset some people by saying that, but it's not right. It's not done to us. This is something that we call to ourselves through our energetic resonance. We call it to us, these relationships, these situationships, these experiences, in order to mirror who we are in the energy that we are living in. And that mirror, and that's why I did a podcast episode called The Relationship Mirror. It is people that come into our lives, we call. It's like picking up on the phone and saying, hey, Fred, come on over next Tuesday. I want to examine a thorn in my body. I want to deal with some embedded pain. I want to deal with some karma that I brought into this life, and you're the right person to trigger me so I can deal with that. That's what happens. That's what our energetic signature is. That's what, which is another episode. Our energy calls out to the universe what is resonant with it. So, and I've said this before, I won't labor it more, but I want to accentuate this point again, that who we are right now is what calls to us whatever we get in our life. So if we are wishing for things that are way beyond our energetic frequency, those things cannot find us on the frequency that we are in, because that radio receiver is broken and it doesn't get that frequency. So all we get is the very lowest frequency that is grounded into this earth realm, that is a three-dimensional experience that we signed up for. So getting that classical radio station it's not built into our receiver yet. Our receiver only gets this three-dimensional frequency until we are able to quite literally be rewired, which I discussed as this energetic ascension. What it is a complete rewiring of the energetic body. It builds new neural pathways in the brain that allows us to think on a larger scale, to think higher thought forms, and to imagine our lives more broadly and more objectively, which allows us to ascend out of the lower energies. It's such an incredible experience But it also, if you look at the whole thing from a wide perspective, it's such a magical thing that we go through as humans. And this is not a mistake. None of it is. Nothing that we go through or is done to us is a mistake. And my ability to see that at the end of this 7-month uh, healing, I guess is what I can call it, where I went from saying, he did this to me, that person, my parents did this to me, my first boyfriend did this to me, my ex-husband did this to me, the world did this to me. And then my language started to change to, oh my gosh, why did I do this to myself? And I started to understand that it's me. I'm the constant factor in all of these relationships and these experiences. It's me. So when I started to be able to look at myself and say, oh, I see why I did that. My tendency is because I have this issue or this issue. It was incredibly complex what I went through. But the Gene Keys literally was a user's manual for my healing. So I will not recommend that too much. It was integral for me to learn to look inside of myself and examine myself when I was triggered, instead of asking, why are you triggering me? And this is why we are unable to connect with the higher frequencies, because we are still looking outward or externally at the world to heal us. So our receiver is, I guess I could say it's broken, but really it's not broken. It's not completely built yet. It doesn't include the alien technology that I have been blessed with, and anyone going through an ascension, I believe all of us are to some degree, that rewires this receiver to receive or tune into these higher frequencies. And so I realized this a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, oh my gosh, my receiver was broken. But really, more realistically, the receiver is not built for, it is a 1969 receiver that was only built to accommodate the radio waves the high definition radio waves of the time. And now that I'm in this new frequency, I'm connected to these, higher HD. I don't even know what the right term would be for the quality of the signal. But that old receiver is gone. It no longer serves the energy that I'm in. So this new receiver is tuned into these higher frequencies, and it has the ability to keep receiving higher and higher frequencies. And this is happening real time as I'm going through this expansion. Then this expansion is coming from the gamma rays and the sun rays and the photon rays that are coming from the universe and the sun. They carry this information that penetrates my body, and it informs my energetic system like a new software program, and it tells it to rebuild itself. And this is what's happening, and that's why I refer to this as an expansion, because that's what it is. My energetic body is being expanded. The dormancies in my DNA are being awakened. And I think I described this as my DNA being expanded. I don't know if that was maybe a little bit overzealous. I'm not sure if that's what's happening. And I know new humans are coming into this world. Grandbabies abound with this 12-strand DNA. We were born, us older folks, with 1 strand or 2 strand, I think it is. And we, a lot of our DNA is dormant and what's referred to by the scientific community as junk DNA. But that's not junk. It's only connected to the higher frequencies, so it's not activated until our energetic body is expanded to hold it, to manage the energy. It's like putting high octane gasoline into I'm not going to get this reference right, but into a low octane tank. It doesn't work. The tank gets damaged. The whole system gets damaged. You cannot, or maybe it's the other way around, low octane fuel into a high, you know what I'm saying. My lower energetic body, when it was denser and it was more conducive to the 3D energy that I had to survive within in order to ascend out of, my shadow self accommodated my shadow self and the work that I had to do, the experiences I had to have, which had to be dark and had to be painful in order for me to heal. So it's so amazing to talk about, and talking about this for the first time sometimes is surprising to even me. Excuse me. It's so remarkable what is happening. And this is being described to me ongoing through messages that I receive in my social media, through suggested posts. And this is something that has really helped me understand that when I have a thought or a feeling about something, my intuition tells me something, I get a validation through a message. And sometimes I don't even expect it. And then I see it and I say out loud, oh, thank you for that. That really helps. I've been asking the universe for information about my origins, and the answers have come, and it has really helped me to continue to, um, with intention, uh, really embrace this expansion. Because I'm not just a human being, I am a being from another star system who is here on a mission. And I don't mean to say that as a crazy revelation, and now you're like, oh, this is a crazy bird. It's not that at all. We have to understand all of us are from another star system. We are all here as an exercise of evolution. So if you still think that aliens are crazy and that energy is a myth, you are not in the right place. You are not ready to understand yourself at a ethereal level, and that's not a dig at all. We all have to go through our lower vibrancies, and it can take lifetimes upon lifetimes. And from what I understand, I've been living human lives for thousands of years. It takes that time to integrate our karma. And in this lifetime, this is a lifetime that my soul chose to overcome and then integrate and then transcend. And that is why at 58 years old, 59 years old, I was led away from my business that I built with my ex-husband for 12 years and away from my income and my ability to, you know what I'm saying? It compelled me to take a leap of faith out into the universe that I had no idea where I was going to land. And this is part of my soul's journey. It was described in the Gene Keys that I am connected so deeply to the cosmos and ethereally to my ethereal self that taking a quantum leap into the unknown is a natural part of my existence, even as a human. So for me, being an ethereal, I don't know how to put this, sound more or less angelic. I don't mean it to sound that way, but me being so connected to my soul self and to source, which is where my soul was created from, it allows me as a human to see this so clearly and to be able to be validated with messages or intuition and just trust it. It's not something, this is part of my journey, part of my mission as a soul in this lifetime is to awaken from my lower vibrancies and to have this experience in the higher vibrancies. And I still don't know everything that's going to bring, but I just wanted to talk about the fact that really it is our receiver, and it's not by no fault of our own does our receiver not tune into the higher frequencies when we are in our three-dimensional shadow selves in that time frame where we have to work on ourselves. And this time frame can last lifetimes. And the chances are pretty good if you're listening to this, you are adjacent to this, or you're maybe going through it yourself, but your curiosity, maybe you're spiritually curious, which is a term that kind of popped in my mind. It's so beautiful because what you are exposed to, your soul is guiding you towards. So whether you awaken fully in this lifetime or not, is really not the point. The point is that you are becoming aware of this. And whether you believe it or not, quote unquote, doesn't really matter. You eat the chicken and leave the bones. You take what resonates and you leave the rest. And that's really what our free will allows us to do. And why our free will is so important in the evolutionary process, because it can't just be a remotely guided thing. Otherwise, what are we getting out of it? We're here to have experiences, and those experiences in the lower vibrancies are meant to be difficult and even traumatic. It is through those experiences that we learn who we are, and that mirror of the person in front of us gives us that view of ourselves. And if we look away, we are missing an opportunity. So this segues me into another thing that I wanted to talk about that is so interesting. My gosh, this is so interesting. how this is all emerging in my life, how I keep thinking about what has happened in my life to really prove to me that I'm on this destiny track, and that I'm on this fated journey that I've been told that I'm on, that I'm fated to be somewhere for a couple of years. I'm fated to move my money. I'm fated to meet my twin flame, who we have this incredible purpose together. I'm fated to move across the world. All these things that were in these readings that repeated over and over and over again. And I kept catalogs of all of these readings from early on, over a year, I think a year and a half of them, over 100 of them. I don't want to exaggerate, but maybe close to 200 readings that I viewed, where I started to say to myself, these are just repeating. And that's when I finally said out loud, I don't think I need these anymore, because every message was exactly the same. And if you're looking at a publicly viewed tarot reader who has 17,000 followers, and I'm getting the same message over and over again, I mean, you get to a point where you have to say, okay, this is not my imagination. And of course, I was validated over and over again whenever I had a thought or a feeling about it, that yes, it's okay. I remember starting to trust the readings and getting a message that said, you can lean into the readings. This was from the higher self of my daughter. The message was, you can lean into the readings. You're not going to lose your logic. And that's when I really started to trust that I could lean into this without losing myself. And then walking around the world going, oh, these readings told me this. And I become, that person. Everybody's like, wow. And I've seen a couple of those people, and I understand it because it's exciting and you want to tell everyone, but I never felt that way about this. It was always a very quiet, very slowly integrated thing for me. And I honestly didn't talk about it for a very long time to anyone, because I wanted to know in my body that this is part of my soul's journey. And I wanted to ground myself with that before I talked about it. And even in the very early stages of this podcast, which is a year and a half old almost now, I didn't speak about it really. It wasn't until later on, because this was an incredible experience. It was literally magical. And I didn't know how to express that without being looked at as a nut. But now I feel this so differently about it. It is part of my body. It is part of my brain, my heart, my energetic body. And it's not something I can separate anymore. So this incredible experience with the tarot and the gene keys and all this, that really helped me to see myself, to look at myself, to let go of the mask that I didn't know that I held up. And I think that's important too. But again, I wanted to segue into something else. I wanted to talk about love and the pursuit of love. And I, as every other human being on earth, we're here to find love. We're here to share our lives, to find a community, to find a partner. And I'm no different. I had my first boyfriend who was completely obsessive with me, possessive with me, and I didn't know that wasn't love. I had to learn about that. I had my second big relationship, which was my first husband, who I believe was a respite from the karma that I brought into this world. I believe that he was the person I was meant to have my daughter with. And it's funny because there's actually another soulmate in my life that we went out of his way to make sure I knew who he was. And I mentioned him, I think, last time. He's somebody who was alive in my lifetime, who died at a young age, who was really responsible for this union between myself and my first husband, and making sure we got together in this world. And together, we were only together for about 9 years, married for I think just under 5. But he was the person I was meant to have my daughter with. And my daughter is an only child, but she's in a family where she has 10 aunts and uncles. My ex-husband is one of 10. And she was born into this huge Italian family, and they just embraced her. And I knew at a very early time that it was such a blessing that she ended up being born in this incredible family. And that this extended family, she has 20 cousins, first cousins. You know what I mean? It's just this incredible family that she was born into, and now her babies will be born into this incredible extended family, where I am standing outside here as the maternal side of her family, completely by myself. I do have family. I have a sister that I'm close to, but when my daughter was born, it was just me. I had no connection to anyone in my family. My father, um, I talked about him a while ago, how we had issues uh, of molestation, and how I confronted him when my daughter was a baby. And I didn't see my father again till a year before he passed away. And he never met my daughter. I kept him away from her because of what had happened to me. And my mother, who is a whole nother story, alcoholic, violent person who again, just like my ex-husband, I dearly appreciate them and the path that they set me on. The challenges that they gave me early on, which set the tone for my life, which set the tone for my karma, which set the tone for my awakening, and blah, blah, blah. So all of this, all of this happened. And this man that my daughter's father was a karmic respite from all of that. She was meant to be born in this family. And then my last ex-husband, who was my karmic soulmate, who I talked about at length as well in the episode The Catalyst, and I think others, where I was meant to be broken by him. And he did the best job. And I still thank him. And I know it might sound crazy to somebody who hasn't heard me much, but I treasure the higher self or the soul of my last ex-husband, because he, out of the purest of love, broke me in half emotionally, which caused this energetic event where I ended up in the hospital, which caused this whole awakening. So you see the third eye at work here. My ability to see all this and the purpose that it served, the higher purpose for my soul's evolution, and not the pain body, which is an Eckhart Tolle term, the pain body that developed over this lifetime, and honestly lifetimes before, that I lived from. This pain body is what decided who I was in the world, because everything and everyone triggered me. So back to love. And this is why I wanted to preface that with this back to the love discussion. And excuse me again. There's an article on my website called A Love Perspective that is a really full-bodied explanation of what I want to talk about. And it's something I wrote quite a while ago. I think while I was still in my pain body, to be quite honest. But I did go back and alter it a little bit to be seen more from the perspective of somebody who understands it. And I do understand it very well. It is a perfectly logical and legitimate piece of work. And it is on my website. There is a small fee if you want it. I do have 3 free articles if you want to get a taste of what I do. But I wrote that because what I was going through, of course, but what I realized in the many, many epiphanies that I had during my healing. And these epiphanies or realizations are your higher self, my higher self, cutting through all of the debris in my body and getting a message to me. And then over time, the debris left my body through the purging. I did another podcast episode called The Emotional Baggage Handler. I wrote another article called The Emotional Baggage Handler. It's such an important thing to purge the emotional weight out of our body so we can be a receiver of these higher frequencies. And this is how we start the rewiring of our receivers. But going through this, oh my God, I lost track of what I was saying. Forgive me. Oh boy, it'll come to me. If it doesn't, oh well. But when I was going through, oh yes, here we are. When I was going through all of this, and I started to think about love, I started to have these realizations about love, and I started to really have an understanding of what love is for the soul, and how different it is for the human. And this is something that really is, and I believe none of this is accidental. I have been hooked on reality TV, and not all reality TV. And this is funny because I don't watch much TV at all. But what I do watch, I find myself watching, are these reality TV shows based on finding love. And there are probably 5 or 6 of them out there now that are these young people, and I'm talking early 20s, who are looking for their forever person. They're willing to get married sight unseen. They're willing to find love blindly, which is another one. And there's so many of them. Oh my gosh, I haven't watched all of them. But what I started to realize, and first of all, I'm like, why am I watching this? And I realized again, as a experiential physicist, which I may upset some real physicists with that. I don't mean to discount the field of physics, but what I'm going through in this world as a soul in a human form, I can only describe as an experiential physicist. It's I'm taking energy, which is who we are ethereally, and transducing it into a human life, which is behavior and actions. And you know what I'm saying? I'm transducing what I'm learning from an energetic source, the gamma and photon rays that I described earlier. That is energy coming into my body and being transduced out as voice or actions or behavior. It is completely legitimate, and I don't mean to discount anyone by referring to myself that way. It's just really encapsulates the best I can think of what I'm going through, what we all are going through as humans. So I'm watching these shows and I'm like, what? Why am I watching this? And this is just part of my work as collecting data to integrate into my experience and to really understand and to really know as an alien in this alien world what's going on at a human level. What is humanity experiencing? What is my humanity experiencing? So again, it's that third party observer that is coming out. It wants to understand this more. And for me, love is always been kind of like, if I'm lucky enough to. And I've always, of course, my experience with love has been I mean, from pleasant to devastating, and to mostly on the devastating side of the scale. And excuse me again. And so I've not really thought much about it except for what I've been learning and watching these people, these young people going through these reality TV shows, and you can see that they're not just acting, that they are looking for love, their forever person. And then when they come together with these people and they go through these accelerated, dating and accelerated living together and all these things that they're experiencing, they are truly looking for a connection that's deep enough to last a lifetime. And I was always looking for, oh, they're acting, or oh, nobody believes this. But I can see it's not just the women, it's the men too. Actually, it's more the men. And I'm really watching this with such interest and curiosity, and it really just kind of brought something up that I think I want to talk about. I talked about sex and sexuality, and that's a whole nother subject, but love is something that we look for. It's one of the reasons why our souls come to this realm to have the human form, because in this form, it is the most powerful experience, this heart. And the emanation of love is so much more powerful in this form than in any other form in the universe. And there are many, 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 many other forms. This is just one, the human form. And we are born from gods and goddesses. So we are equipped with incredible complexities and power, and on a whole nother subject. But we're here to find love because we want to experience love in this form. And one of my souls, and this was told to me in my energetic template, which is the human design chart, that my soul is here to find partnership and true love. That's one of the things that my soul is here to do in this lifetime. It's like a reward for all of the crap that I've gone through as a human. And it was repeated to me over and over in the tarot that this twin flame is in the world who I'm destined to meet. And I've been receiving so many messages about this, and I'll get to that in a minute. But watching these shows about these young people in their early 20s looking for a forever person really helped me to see where the disconnect is between the soul's purpose and the human's ideal of love. And this is so important, and I want to talk about this because it seems like an epidemic I should say not an epidemic. It's a result of our digital lives. We're so connected digitally, electronically, and that which has caused such a huge disconnect physically and emotionally. I mean, people don't meet. When I was young, I met somebody in a bar or through a friend. I met my first husband, who's one of 10, through a friend, his sister. I met my second husband, my karmic ex-husband, through someone I met in a bar. We used to go to ladies' night at a bar, and we used to do line dancing and have so much fun. And I met this young woman who was the roommate of my future ex-husband, and who I described before as another soulmate who made sure we connected. But that's how we met somebody, or, maybe the grocery store, or maybe, I don't know, a concert. But we did not have digital dating apps. We didn't have the internet, honestly, until I was a teenager. So it wasn't the way we met our people. We met each other in groups or parties, and you know what I mean? It wasn't like it is today. And I think what's happened is that this incredible immersion of electronic connection, where we can connect with somebody across the world so easily, and we can have these electronic relationships where we are presenting ourselves in the best way possible, or even in a false way. We have gotten to the point where I hear these young people talking about dating apps and how they don't trust them anymore, is that people who are not who they say they are. That you might have a picture of somebody who is completely different when you meet them, or there's a 100 different things that can go wrong in that when you meet someone that you met online. And I think this has caused a desperation in the younger generation for love, for the human connection that it was lost with this electronic connection. And I was never I missed my generation, or me specifically, missed the electronic age. I never dated anyone on a app. I don't ever plan to. I've never had to trust that the person I was talking to was who they said they were. It's hard enough to meet somebody in real life, see their face and their body language and hear their words, and trust that they are who they are. So I think this huge disconnection has caused a desperation for the pursuit of love, for somebody to love us. And seeing these people 24 years old and 25 up to 30, 31 years old, these people are looking for their forever person. And what I'm seeing so clearly is the disconnect between the human ideal and the soul's purpose with love. So I want to talk about that. And this is something that's been validated over and over to me, and something I knew in my body before I went through the majority of this awakening, is that love is, I talk about marriage at length too, how marriage can be really, how do I put this delicately? Maybe I don't need to be delicate anymore. Marriage is a false ideal. Marriage is something that we attempt to put under contract. We attempt to contract or put restrictions on, or terms around, our love connection. So when we get married, we literally have to go to the courthouse to get a contract or a license to get married, because we are putting each other under contract. And love cannot exist under contract. And hear me out. I mean, love is like smoke. I mean, you can capture smoke in a glass, sure, and you can look at it and say, oh, I own this smoke. I look at it, how beautiful it is floating around in the air. But over time, that smoke is going to dissipate it, and you'll look at your glass and it's gone. And why is that? Because smoke, like air, is ethereal. It goes into its mist form, which is another dimension, and it disappears and dissipates into the ethos and becomes part of the ethos again. That's what our spirit is, what our soul is. Actually, a source of our soul is the and this is all sacred geometry, and I'm not going to go into that at all. I don't understand it enough with my brain to discuss it intelligently, so I'm not going to go there. But I know this with my body, is that the soul is encapsulated in a way that it can be birthed into a body, which is an ecosystem, which is the earth. The earth gives birth to the body. Oh my God, a whole nother subject. Anyway, love is ethereal. Love is a being. I believe that love is it's an emotion that is that goes off into the ethos, just like all of our emotions. It cannot be put under contract. It just isn't possible. And we do that because we want a guarantee. We want a guarantee that the person that says they love us is going to always love us, and that is going to be with us and take care of us and satisfy our pain body for the rest of our lives. And forgive me, I did get married twice. The first time, my daughter was 6 months old, and I felt I should do it for the family unit. I did it for an external purpose. The second time I got married was 15 years, 20 years into my relationship, where people in our business world said you probably should be married to make sure that you're both protected, financially. And so we got married 20 years into our relationship. Marriage has never been a thing for me. And maybe that's not a very female thing for me to say, but it's just never been a thing. I've always thought that if I'm in love, let that love last as long as it lasts. And I think I mentioned this before, but when the love is dissipated or changes, let me leave with appreciation. And let you leave with appreciation. I mean, I think I talked about this. Is my vision of this is like a village of people who I love. They don't have to go away from my life forever because I'm mad at them or they're mad at me. But this is how I perceive love for me in the future and for anyone in a higher frequency, is that we come together first in the lower frequencies to see each other through the mirrors that we provide each other. And instead of saying, will you love me forever? How about, will you love me till I get to the point where I can heal this part of me? And then I will love you till I can help you heal the parts of you. And then when we get to that point where we can see each other as somebody who assisted us in this life, and that love is still there, but maybe the desire to love is gone, that we can say to each other, and I guarantee you, and I don't guarantee anything, I bet you though, that if we saw love that way, if we pursued love in that way, as a way to see ourselves through the eyes of someone who loves us, and then through that love, we can heal. And then when the healing is over, we can say, that healing is done, and I thank you so much for helping me get here. And I want to leave you with love and light and wish you more healing in the future from whomever comes into your life next. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like stepping stones towards our true love. And this has been described to me in a Gaia series that I watched called Initiation, which I talked about a couple of times, that we are not meant to love just one person. And I don't mean to discount long-term love. It's not for that. I'm talking about myself, and let me just talk about myself. I'm not meant to love one person because I can only learn so much. And then when that learning turns into stagnation, and where I can learn no more about myself, and I start to resent, and I start to get bored, and then this is when we start to invite external forces into our love life. We need videos to get sexually aroused. We need another partner. We need to cheat. We need to leave. And maybe it is time to leave, and it probably is, but why can't that time be appreciated? And why can't we go into a relationship with the expectation that we will probably not be together forever? And if we are, wonderful. But if our focus is to love each other truly, then what we have to realize is that we are being loved by, and we are loving with our pain bodies when we're in our 3D frequencies. And I watch these young people on these shows that they get into the part where they're living together in the reality show, and then they are doing things in real life, and then they're triggering each other left and right. And they walk away angry, and the person says, what did I do? And they say, well, you spoke to someone else, and I was right here, and I felt hurt. Okay, well, that is the first sign that the pain body is conducting this relationship. In these higher frequencies, and I'll only speak for myself, love is ethereal. And what that means is it doesn't matter you as a human what you do. If you go talk to another woman, I'm not triggered because I trust that this love is meant to last as long as it lasts. And if you are in your pain body still, and if that pain is not healed by my mirror, then we're going to separate, because I don't have the capacity to heal you. I can only assist you in healing yourself. So when I watch these shows, and I see almost immediately when they go into the honeymoon phase, where they go off to this resort and they are together physically for the first time, or whatever the show, and how careful they are with each other to be on their best behavior. And when they start to slip, that you see the real pain start to emerge. And this pain needs to be healed. And we heal this pain with each other. And if we agree to do that, instead of looking for our forever person and putting that weight on each other. I mean, you're basically saying when you sign that marriage license that you're signing up to be a participant in a fairy tale. And you are going to shower me with love, and you are going to heal me, and you are going to make all these romantic gestures. And if you don't, I'm going to call you out, and you have to be this version of yourself that is a fairy tale to me. So you're signing up for a straight up fairy tale. And if you fail, then you are bad, and I hate you, and you hurt me, and I'm going away, and you are the devil. So when we're conducting our love relationship with our pain body, there's no choice but it to end in flames. And that's okay. But if we can recognize that for what it is, an opportunity to learn to heal our pain body, then we get out of it what we're meant to, and we leave that person with love. Why do I have to be damaged when your pain body is conducting your relationship with me? So it's the equivalent of me being, okay, let's say we're driving down the street and some guy is in a bad mood and he cuts me off and he ends up, disrupting the lives of all these drivers, and everybody's swearing and flipping him off and screaming. And maybe in my anger, I run into somebody and I have a fender bender. And now I'm really angry because that person was their fault. Look what they did to me. It's just not real. It's an illusion. It is the pain body conducting a life that is on the surface because I don't have the depth to go any deeper. So whenever I'm triggered or angered, it is your fault. And you should pay. And you should be ostracized, and you. And I went through that with my ex-husband. It was him. It was his fault until I started to realize that it had nothing to do with him. And that he gave me such a gift in mirroring myself back to me. And honestly, looking into that mirror crushed me. And I had to come to terms with the fact that I was living with a narcissist, with an empty, emotionally vacant human being. How can this empathetic, compassionate person call this person into my life? I had to come to terms with that. But as soon as I disconnected from the need for him to be at fault is when the healing really began. And the epiphany started just popping like fireworks into my psyche. And this was, of course, my higher self saying, okay, she's got it. She's ready. Let's go, go, go. And my healing was accelerated through the gene keys as a map, a treasure map to get to the end of my healing. And at the end of my healing was me. It wasn't anyone else. No one was at fault, including me. This was my purpose in this human form. And love was the most incredible experience for me because it was what taught me what I needed to learn. It wasn't through addiction. It wasn't through not deeply obsessive behavior. I didn't have a spending addiction. I didn't have a sex addiction. The things that project outward from our bodies, from our pain bodies into the world because we're looking for soothing. We need a respite from it. So these things that dull us temporarily are what we reach for. And of course, these addictions and these obsessions, or possession even, which is a whole nother subject, cause us to spiral deeper into our pain body. And it isn't until I let go of the false me that I fell back into my ethereal self, into the void, into the darkness. And I described it as that. It was incredibly scary at first. So we're conducting these relationships with our pain body, and I'm looking at these young people, these beautiful young people who are the most gorgeous, outwardly gorgeous people you could ever want to see, who are the most deeply insecure. That as soon as the person they connect to as my fairy tale Prince Charming acts real in the world, they break apart. And then you can see them start to distance from each other, but it's the fault of the other person. What they're missing is the opportunity to look at themselves. And this is what I really want to accentuate here, is that love is a mechanism. It is an exercise in humanity. And it's the most powerful exercise that as humans we get to participate in, is a love relationship with someone else. And when you feel triggered, and I'm going to use that word because it's a widely used one, I hear it all the time, that you triggered me. When you're triggered by someone else, that is something inside of you that needs to be examined. And that person is doing you a favor. That person is assisting you. Unconsciously, yes. But that person is helping you to see something inside yourself that needs examination, that needs your attention, that needs your intention to heal. And then once you heal that trigger, it goes away. And that's one less thing in your pain body. And this is something we need to understand, especially as the new humans coming in, the young people. And I was told early on that I'm here to help the youth. And I don't really understand that yet completely, but maybe this is part of it. That my purpose is here to talk about these things so I can help people overcome these things more quickly. You do not have to wish for a forever person. Instead, wish for the next person that can help you heal yourself. And you do it with love, and you do it with honesty and integrity and vulnerability. This is something we cannot conjure with the pain body as the conductor of these relationships, because all the pain body knows is its own pain. And the ego is at the very top of it, conducting all of the business. And ego is not just boisterous and being bossy and taking what you want in the world. Ego is the shyness and the unwillingness to go out of our shell because we're afraid. Ego is the whole spectrum of emotions. It's not just the aggressive ones. And that's something I had to learn too. My shyness was my ego. I always thought my shyness was me, being demure in the world and being, letting others take be illuminated. But that's not what shyness is. Shyness is the ego keeping us from putting ourselves out there in fear of getting hurt or being seen for who we are. So if we're looking for love instead of forever and insisting on that contract, that means people are getting married before they ever see each other. And I know it's a reality show, but there's some realness to it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be reality. This is real people looking for real love. And they're doing it in such a way that, for me, I see as a desperate call for somebody to love me. I'm willing to marry you without seeing you. I'm willing to fall in love with you without seeing you. This is all a hallmark of the world we're living in. This is the generation who can't find love. That's why it's this huge moneymaker in the TV industry. Is young people looking for love and they're not finding it because all they're seeing is the false identities online. And when they meet these people, they're doing it in their own pain body. So, I mean, look at the disparity between the meeting them and then the getting to know them. You're already behind the 8 ball when you meet them because you don't even know if the picture's real. You don't get to see the body language. You don't get to see the gestures. You don't get to feel the person energetically, which is so necessary to get to know someone. And I'm not saying that it's bad. I haven't experienced it. I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm only going by what I know. So in this energy and at this time in my life, to me, I mean, I've been told that I'm going to experience true love for the first time. And that I had to go through this energetic expansion before. And why do you think that is? Because this ethereal love that is truly anchored into a clear, open heart has to be prepared for. I can't go from my pain body to true love. And this is why it's so important to be alone between love relationships. And I don't want to, this is, again, I can't express this enough. When you go from one person to another, to another, to another, that's the pain body not wanting to find, not wanting to feel. You just want the feeling of new love and that brand new, new car smell with a new person, and you're addicted to it. So you go from one to another with no capacity to go deep enough to anchor any love into your body. And this is not your fault. This is the pain body. And I thank Eckhart Tolle again for this. And if you haven't read his books, please do. He's amazing in expressing and identifying all this. The pain body conducts these relationships. So when you go from one person to another, to another, to another, and this is a hallmark you can look for. If the person that you're meeting is still in a relationship with someone else, run the other way. If the person you're meeting is still is just going from one to another, I mean, this is a huge red flag. But if this is who you're calling to your life and you're drawn to this person, then you're drawn. If you're drawn, then there is work to be done. Because it's just a matter of time before you start to trigger each other, and then you break apart because he wasn't right for me or she wasn't right for me. They didn't know how to treat me. It's all very logical. It's all very scientific. It's all resonance. This is your energetic signature calling into the world, into your life, what resonates with your body. And don't mistake it for anything else. If the person in your life is causing you pain or causing you doubt, look at yourself. Why am I feeling that? Yes, if the other person is the catalyst or the agitator, yes, for sure. But why am I reacting this way? That's what you really need to focus on. And when you find that within yourself and you can say, oh, it's this trauma that I experienced in my first relationship or from a past life or from my childhood, then you can, with integrity, say, thank you for helping me to see that. And you can heal that. The chances that that person is going to be right for you long going, I'm sorry to say, is very slim because of that person's pain body that allowed that trigger. Do you know what I'm saying? In the higher frequencies, there are no more triggers. I'm not capable of triggering you because I don't have a pain body that I'm living from. And you're not capable of triggering me because my pain body is gone. And if you still have a pain body, I'm going to immediately see that. And the chances are very good. Honestly, I've not experienced it yet, but I believe you will not even be on my frequency. I'll never meet you. That is how powerful the frequency is. And there's an article that's free on my website called Resonation where I go into detail about this. Resonation is everything. Vibrancy, vibration is life. How we vibrate, just like the tone of music. If a musical chord is a certain vibration, just like on a guitar string or a piano, that frequency is only reached by hitting that tone. You can't be a vibrato in an alto frequency. They're two different frequencies. It's not a vibrato, a soprano. You know what I'm saying? They're two different frequencies. Everything is a frequency. So if your body is emanating from your energetic signature a specific frequency, that is what you're attracting. And what I'm saying is when you attract that frequency, know that that frequency is there. That person is there to help you heal. If you can only see it that way. And again, it's the perspective that's required for you to see yourself as having this experience. And that's the third eye. So I just wanted to talk about this because I feel like it's so important, especially with this younger generation, is that love is why we're here. And you are challenged more than anyone else I can imagine on this earth in this digital age with finding love. And it's showing, it's projected into the television shows where these beautiful young people who have everything going for them are so deeply insecure when it comes to love that they are on these shows. And they're willing to put their trust into some experiment to see if they can find the love of their lives. And just to be clear, I could not find the love of my life in my lower vibrancies because I did not have the capacity to nurture that love. But what I'm able to do now and what I'm told will happen in my life is now that I've gone through all of this experimentation and experiences throughout this lifetime and many lifetimes before, that now I'm in the time of this lifetime where I'm meant to awaken, and then I'm meant to integrate everything that I've gone through, or essentially heal all the karma that I brought into my life. And in that healing, I gain this incredible perspective. And you stop blaming, and you start to really appreciate the people, or the souls, or the higher selves is how I see them, that came into your life to help you heal. And I'm not saying they came in with a thermometer and a cold compress. They come in hot. They don't know what they're doing. Their pain body is doing this. So it's an ethereal thing. It's a higher self thing. It's not something the person knows. So don't ask. They don't know. Just know within yourself that when somebody triggers you, it is an opportunity for you to look at yourself. And when you start to look at yourself and trust that that healing is done with you do the healing yourself, that person is just a catalyst for you to connect with the pain, you start to trust yourself. And you build this connection with your ethereal body, which is connected to all source. And when you become connected to source, you start to see the life everywhere. And your perspective expands exponentially. Your body expands. Again, your brain starts building new pathways. And the old pathways of thought start to break down and fall away because they're not being used anymore. Do you know what I'm saying? It's you're rebuilding your body from the inside out, but it can only be done from the inside out. So even psychology, and oh my goodness, I don't want to go off too far on a tangent, but when we go to a psychologist to talk about our mental state of mind or our emotional state of body, we are missing the spiritual aspect. And maybe past life regressions or meditation. There are so many ways that are available now in the metaphysical world that we can use to help identify our pain body. Eckhart Tolle is an incredible resource. I read all of his books, and this is something that I did insatiably in my lower frequencies as I was preparing, as my soul was preparing me to emerge out of it. I gobbled up all the metaphysics I could. I went to mediums. The paranormal was incredible appeal, had incredible appeal to me, something outside of my human body I knew existed. And then came astrology and astronomy even, where now I'm looking at the lunar cycles, and there's an eclipse coming up on April 4th or 7th. I don't remember the date, a total solar eclipse, which is a very rare event. And this total solar eclipse, from what I understand from the messages I've been receiving in my video channel, is supposed to be extra impactful to Libras and Aries. And I happen to be a Libra. And that big change is coming for me. And I've been getting messages all over the place that change is coming. That are you listening to the nudges in your body that are telling you to put yourself out there? And I did. I had an incredible nudge the other day to reach out to somebody. And I did that. And I don't know if it's going to produce anything, but I felt the nudge, and it's my responsibility as the human counterpart to my ethereal self to take that action in the world. And I vow to be responsive to what comes to me. And I've been getting so many messages. I started to talk about just a few minutes ago, so many messages in my social media that are suggested for you, that are from the higher self of my twin flame. And throughout my whole experience with messages over the last couple of years, it's 2.5 years now, since 2021, really June 2021, when this really started for me, almost 3 years now, that I've been getting messages. And the tarot stopped over a year ago. I stopped looking at the tarot. I don't even do my own oracle readings. And again, this was a message to my soul to team to tell them I'm good on my own. You can take the training wheels. I got the bike ride. I can do it myself. But I still get many, many messages through many, many other mediums. Not mediums, forgive me, not like a medium, like social media, a conversation I hear, like I talked about when I turned on the radio, a message through a radio, a song. I get them all the time. Validations of how I'm feeling. I was talking out loud about my origin as a soul, and I asked out loud, am I what I think I am? And I got a response a few days later that said, yes, you are. And then I started to get more messages that validated that and gave me more and more information about my purpose here on earth, my mission in this lifetime on earth, and what it really is for, and how my twin flame is involved in that, and how powerful it really is. And I won't talk about it specifically right now, but I've been getting so many messages from my twin flame through these social media messages that are just talking about what our lives are going to be like when we come together or reunite in this world, and how impactful this reunion is going to be on ourselves individually, how healing, how activating, and how together we have this higher purpose. And I'll talk about that maybe more down the road. Right now, I'm keeping that close to the vest because I'm still learning. But love is part of this journey for me. And in my human design chart, it talked about how my soul is here to find a partnership in true love. And again, that was validated in the many, many tarot readings, that this twin flame is part of my reward for all the karma that I lived, and that true love is in my future in this lifetime. And I know who the person is. I've been shown him. I know his name. I've seen his picture. And I always wondered, why are you showing me this person? And I don't know if these accelerated messages that started at the end of the year and have been persisting through the month of March that we're in right now, 2024. And I did say out loud the other day, I said, I appreciate the many messages, and I used the name of this person. I said, but just please know that your love is anchored in my heart, and I no longer need the messages. If you want to send them, please do, but I don't need them. And again, it's just a way for me to say to the higher self of my twin flame, and to my own higher self, and to my soul tribe, that I'm good. I'm in a place between worlds is how I describe it. I'm in a place where I'm integrating this incredible expansion, where there's so much going on energetically, and it affects my energy. I sleep a lot. I eat a lot less. I eat foods that are, I cook for myself almost. I rarely eat out anymore because I want to know where my food's coming from. It's so weird how everything's been affected. I need less food because the photons from the sun ray are nourishment, and I need less food. This is my body decompressing. It's the denseness of my 3D body breaking apart, quite literally, with the cellular change into this crystalline body, which is how it's been described. So my body is lighter. It requires less food. I've never weighed less since I was a 20-year-old. I mean, I did not try to lose weight. This is my body resetting itself to the weight that it needs to be in this human form, while this crystalline body is being birthed inside of my energy. Everything has changed. Everything is still changing. So I'm in this place between worlds is how I describe it. And in this time period, I'm meant to spend this concentrated time with my girls, with my daughter and her babies. And I'm meant to bond and integrate with them. And there's so much going on there too, because they're soulmates, all as well as my children, my child and her child. Her children are my soulmates. My daughter is my soulmate. So I'm meant to be with them in this really concentrated, focused time where I'm not working and I'm only doing my podcast and I'm writing, and all the other time is free for rest and to spend with them, because this time period that has been described as a couple of years, and I did that in air quotes because divine time has nothing to do with our linear time. It could be more, it could be less. But I'm meant to spend this concentrated time with them, because there will become a time in my future where I'm meant to move. And I've been given all this awareness because of it's my mission, and I'm meant to know what's going on. And there's so much more that I'm not ready to talk about, that maybe someday I will, but I want to just really, I wanted to really talk about love, because this is something that there's a space between what the human love means to the human and what love means to the ethereal being looking to evolve. We're here to evolve. And you have to realize, once the human body dies, it disintegrates back into the earth. It becomes ash again, which is fuel or fertilizer for the earth, which is why I will not be buried in a casket. that I will be buried naturally, or I'll be cremated. I'd really prefer a natural burial if it's available around me, but I'm not going to make whoever's with me when I pass away go to another country to bury me. Honestly, if I had my way, it would be a funeral pyre. I would be put on a raft and set on fire and out into the water, which is where I was born. So I don't want to be buried in a big, clunky, non-degradable casket. I want to be buried into the earth, wrapped in sackcloth, which is maybe covered in mushrooms, so my body decomposes as food, which is what it's meant to do. So when this body dies and this human is gone, that experience is over. The human doesn't care anymore. The soul goes on with the integrated experiences to continue to look for ways to evolve and to love. And I'll say this before I go, that love is the fuel for all of this. That self-love is required for us to rise out of our lower vibrancies. And then love for others, and then unconditional love, which allows us to see everyone at a soul level. We can see other people's pain body. And yes, I avoid the people if they're going to be a love relationship. I can avoid you. I see you coming 100 miles away. But those in my life that I can help by my energetic vibrancy, and all it takes is presence, and then this is something that's been described as me too, is us beings, as we evolve in our energy, as we ascend and expand, our vibrancy goes up. And I described this a couple of times. I experience time faster than I ever did before, and this is part of this higher vibrancy, this frequency that I'm in. It's remarkable what all the different how things are so different. I see the earth as my mother. And every tree, and this was described in one of the messages that was sent to me through social media. And this was so amazing that I printed it out. I believe it was channeled through this person who doesn't know me or my twin flame. This person channeled a message that talked about me as a person and what I've gone through, and my twin flame and what I know about him. It is a channeled message that was sent to me through a suggested post in social media. That's how I'm communicated to. It's so beautiful, I printed it out. And I sent a message to the author thanking him because he channeled it for me from my twin flame. And it got so specific, I can't even tell you how specific it is. And I'll tell you one thing because it's so incredible. And then I'll let you go because I know it's running long. I was watching an episode of Outlander, and this was a year or more ago. And I was told in the tarot that I would see things on TV that if they caused an emotional reaction, I likely went through it. And this happened right before this experience that I had. I was watching an episode of Outlander, and I won't go into great detail, but basically, this is most of the show is filmed before. What's the time period? Oh my God, it escaped me. Before the Civil War, and during a time where it was a pioneer people, basically, and it was in Scotland, and the woman Claire time travels back. If you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. I won't describe the whole premise. But basically, during one of the episodes, during a time where they were having an interaction with local American Indians, or local indigenous people, they oftentimes during those times they didn't know each other, and they fought, or they assumed each other were evil, and there wasn't a connection. But in this, what happened is the Indians, the indigenous people, kidnapped these white people, took them back to their tribe, and what they do is they integrate these people into their tribal life. They don't torture them, they don't keep them captive, but they integrate them into their tribal life. And I think this was a way to keep their tribes growing. I'm not really sure how much of this was real, but I believe it to be. And they kidnapped this person who was a priest, and he ended up staying with the tribe. He became actually a valued member of the tribe, but love between him and one of the indigenous women was forbidden. And he fell in love as a priest. It was forbidden as well, but he fell in love with one of the women in the tribe, and he had to hide that. They had to hide their love because it was not allowed. And something happened, I don't remember, so if you've seen the episode and I'm misquoting it, forgive me, but what it ended up happening is that they wanted the priest to do something that was against his religion, and he refused to do it. So as a punishment, they burned him at the stake. And this woman who loved him, who was one of the indigenous people, one of the tribal people, um, when she saw this happening, she, in such pain, she ran and jumped into the fire with him. It still brings back emotions. When I saw this, I started to sob. I started to cry. I had to turn off the TV. It's still, I can feel it in my body. I cried for 20 minutes. I'm like, what the hell is this? And then I remembered, oh my gosh, I was just told recently that if I see something on TV that causes an emotional reaction, I likely went through that. So I don't know if that was a situation that happened to me, or if I was maybe in the witch trials, which maybe makes sense because witches are earth people. They're not evil. I'm sure there's evil magic, but most witches were perceived as evil, but they're just earth people. They're connected deeply to the earth like the indigenous people are. So maybe I was in the witch trials. I don't know. But I was burned at the stake according to what I learned. And when I received this message that was channeled by my twin flame's higher self through this person randomly on social media, it was mentioned in there that you can tell me that you were burned at the pyre and I'll believe you. And there were several other things in the message that resonated with me as things that I've thought of or that have happened or that I've learned about the twin flame, the higher self my twin flame, from the messages from his higher self. But I've been getting so many of these love messages. And then I got one that really blew my mind yesterday that really got me thinking about doing an episode about love. And I won't talk about that yet. But I wanted to just talk about this because I think it's so important, especially for young people, to understand that love is in our lower vibrancies, and just expect that you are. If you don't know you are, know that you are. Look for opportunities to love and to heal. And then you're deepening the love in your own body, which allows you the capacity to truly love someone else, which again elevates you more and more. And look at love as a stepping stone. And at marriage, and just look at marriage more carefully. And I'm not saying don't get married. And I know marriage is important for children. You know, a lot of people feel that way. I look at love more as a village, and that I don't have to be married for my children to feel integrated into a family. I guess I feel like family is more of a soul thing to me than a bloodline. And again, you may not agree. That's okay. But I think if you can look at love as more of a opportunity to love ourselves more and not put so much pressure on ourselves and the person we're with to be our fairy tale, then we might experience love differently and we may grow from it. And then when we meet the next person, we have more capacity to love. And then maybe in this lifetime, you get to experience true love, which is love without the pain body, which is love from a soul that trusts herself or his self and doesn't need to trust outwardly. I don't need you to stay with me forever. But while you're here, make me laugh and be affectionate and show me you love me and help me grow. And I'll do the same for you. Let that be our contract. And when it ends, there's no contract to break. There's nothing to break. There's nothing to resolve. And maybe there is a need for financial resolution. I get that. And I wish I could rely on your integrity to take care of your children if you leave me or I leave you. That's a whole nother ball game. But if we can agree that we take care of our children together, let that be the contract. And does it have to be written? I don't think so. But if it doesn't, then let that be the contract. I think marriage needs to be rethought. It's a construct of an old-timey mindset, as well as just about everything else in this world, which is why these young people, these new humans, are coming in to knock it all the flip down. So anyway, I apologize again for the coughing. I'll try to edit it out if I can. But I appreciate you being here for as long as you stayed. And I just want to leave you with, I want to send you healing and love. I want to send you clarity and peace. I want to send you a centered intention to love yourself. And I thank you very much for listening. Until next time.